Damn, it really do be beautiful outside right now. But you know what it's not beautifuler than? It's not better beautifuler than you.
Bonjour everyone, Pantoufleee here today for a new review in which we're going to talk about the T-57 Heavy, simply because I have a spare replay of an ace tanker of the tank and I thought, you know what, let's not make it go to waste. I'm going to use it for a review, so there we go. T-57 Heavy, the brother of the 50B. Why would you go for the T-57 Heavy instead of the 50B or the opposite? 50V is for good players. T-57 Heavy allows you to do a lot more mistakes. So if you're looking for an autoloader and you're a new player, you should go for the T-57 Heavy, because the 50V is more about mobility, whereas this one features a traditional heavy playstyle. You will have to change one or two things when you're on the battlefield, but we're going to talk about that further. But yeah, still, this is the one for newbies. If you're a pro, you will like the 50B more, and if you're a newbie or an average player, you will like the T-57 Heavy more. Let's jump into the statistics. Aiming time, really good. Gun dispersion, good. Damage per minute, good. Magazine reload time, 19 seconds, with 2.5 seconds between shells, which makes you be able to unleash all your clip in 5 seconds, and 1.2k damage per clip. It's quite, not insane, but it's quite a good reload time, and especially burst abilities the T-57 Heavy has. It's the same as the 50B, of course, but I think the 50B reloads takes a little bit longer to reload between shells. I think it's something like 2.8 seconds. So it really does make a difference with the T-57 Heavy, especially when you're going to burst all your shells on your opponents. For the average penetration, it's really, really fine as well, simply because I'm using the proper equipment. But overall, if you combine that with the fact that this tank has 8 degrees of gun depression, it makes it quite a versatile gun to use on the battlefield, and maybe a little bit better than the 50B when it comes to that point. After, for the turret, we don't really care about the armor. I just want to tell you that it's quite trollish, but you're going to see that through the armor profile later on. And the turn rate. The turn rate of the hull and the traverse speed makes it look like a mobile heavy, not like your traditional heavy that takes ages to circle or to turn around. It's not the case of the T-57 Heavy, which will allow you not to get circled too easily, and you will be able to catch up with mediums when it comes to circling, when it comes to pushing with them, etc, etc. The only thing you lack of when it comes to the T-57 Heavy is probably the top speed, because you are locked at 35 kilometers per hour, and 35 kilometers per hour is definitely not a lot. If we compare, for example, with the AMX M454, which can climb up to 45, 50 kilometers per hour, it really does make a difference. But it's not a problem, as the T-57 Heavy is supposed to have a support role on the battlefield, and therefore not pushed at the beginning of the game. How am I equipping my tank? First, calibrated shell, because I never used improved ventilation. I would rather have more penetration with my tank. As you have an autoloader and 3 shells in the magazine, you don't want to bounce 1 or 2 of them, because if you do, you are going to rage. After, I go for the enhanced gun lane drive to reduce my aim time, and vertical stabilizer to reduce it even more, because for the reload between shells, I want to fully focus on my targets to be able to penetrate. After, I go for the defense system, because I'm not going to ram anybody. Improved assembly, because even if my armor is trollish, you will not, I mean, strengthening, can we say that? Strengthening, sorry, the armor is useless on this tank. It doesn't have enough armor to make a huge difference on the battlefield. Toolbox, because an enhanced track is useless. Improved optics, because I don't need a camo, because I'm not going to camp. Improved control, simply because I could actually use the engine accelerator. You could go for both, but I'm more comfortable playing with the improved control, just in case I'm getting circled or something like this. And finally, consumable delivery system, because as I'm an autoloader, I don't have access to adrenaline, so I would rather use my consumable more often. There we go for something a little bit interesting about the tank. If you shoot at this area, you will auto-bounce. Of course, it's similar to the gun. It's not necessarily a gun mantlet, but you will bounce if you shoot that area most of the time. Also, same for this area here. If you shoot at the top there, it's going to be impossible for you to penetrate. Now, what I like about this tank is that it's extremely weirdly angled, at least on the turret, and therefore there are some aspects of the tank that are impossible to penetrate. For example, here, the kind of a ring around the gun mantlet, and that goes for pretty much all the tank, and that's what makes it interesting to play, in my opinion. If you shoot at this area that is highlighted in yellow, in orange, or this one that is highlighted in yellow, pretty much all the upper part of the tank, you will not penetrate. If you want to penetrate that tank, the only way for you to penetrate is shooting that area here, or maybe here if you want as well. You really need to shoot the lower part of the turret. Let's just imagine that the turret is divided in two parts, the first one being this one, the second one one being this one. You want to shoot this part here. If you manage to do that, you will penetrate 99% of the time. For the rest of the the hull armor, the upper part of the hull is impenetrable, except of course if you are not angled. Here it becomes easy to penetrate, and you still have the traditional weak spot, which is the lower part of the hull. One last thing to notice about the tank, it has extremely weak sides, so do not try to side scrape with this, because if you do, you are going to get crushed, and the rest of the tank is of course penetrable quite easily by whatever is going to encounter you, of course, and with HE. And there we go for the replay, guys. We are playing on Castilla, and as you can see, sorry, we are playing with World of Tank Blitz Joe. We're in Platoon. Why am I in Platoon playing this tank? Let me explain to you briefly after I clear my throat. So, I was saying, the playstyle of the T-57 Heavy. You have 19.5 seconds of reload when you are reloading your whole clip. Therefore, there is 19.5 seconds where you are exposed, and people will try to rush you, push you if they know that you are reloading. And that's something you want to avoid. How do you avoid it? By either playing it in platoon and stay in a group like you play, for example, here, what I'm doing with World of Tank Blitz Joe, we are both playing a heavy tank, and if you do that, it should work perfectly for you, as when you're reloading, there is your friend that is defending you and preventing enemies to push. And if you want to play it alone, no problem, you can do that, but you gotta stick with the main forces of your team. For example, the heavies, most of the time it's gonna be the heavies, because you don't have the mobility to catch up with the mediums or even the light tanks with the T-57 Heavy. And that's pretty much how you want to play it. Now, concerning the main play style, when you're doing that and when you're sticking yourself to your allies or to a platoon mate, what you need to understand is that this tank is definitely not made for direct brawling. You don't want to go first line, you don't want to try to bounce shots, to handle shots. You are not made for that, no. What you want to try with this tank is playing second line, as I'm doing right now. For example, I burst all my shells, allowing me to kill the PTA, but I decided not to push on the other side. If I was playing, for example, with an E100 or an AMX M454, I would not be where I am right now. I would be with the rest of my team on the left side, trying to brawl, maybe pushing the VK and the IS-4. Instead, here I'm trying to burst all my all my shots or all my shells. I try to do a mix of both. And by doing that from this position, I'm actually safe. And that's what you want to try with your tank. You want to be safe. So there we go. Now the amazing heat penetration, thanks to the equipments we're using that are allowing us to burst all our shells on that poor VK. And there we go. We managed to do in 2 minutes already 3.4k damage. Simply because we are playing the second zone. Now, we are kind of stuck because, as you can see, there is the Leo 1 and the T124. I'm really lucky that the T124 did not manage to penetrate my ass, because with HE I think he would have been able to do at least 1k damage. But it's not a problem. Now what we do is we push the Leo PTA, we are trying to move him. There we go. We tried to block the guy. Unfortunately, Wotb Joe blocked my shot, but it's not a problem. We finish off the guy, and boom, we killed the Leo 1. And that's where the burst abilities of the T-57 Heavy are becoming quite interesting. That's one of the few tanks in this game that is capable of inflicting such a number of damage in only 5 seconds. Beside the Heavy 1A3 and maybe the Panzer E100 with HE, I don't feel like any other tanks can do that. And that's what is great. That's what makes those auto-loader tanks interesting, the bursting abilities. They don't necessarily have the best GPM, even if in the case of the T-57 Heavy, when you compare the T-57, when you compare, sorry, the DPM it has to traditional heavies that don't have an autoloader, you will see that this tank catches up pretty soon with all of them. Maybe they have a little bit more, like 3.2k, but you still have 3k average damage with your average DPM, sorry, with your T-57 Heavy. And there we go for the last one, of course, the 268 that is camping. We took a shot here, but it's not a problem. We're gonna burst all our shells, and we are trying to go back as soon as possible. So what you need to learn about this replay is that the T-57 Heavy is not the tank with which you are gonna take risks. You can take risks at when the game is over, of course, like I'm doing right now, because when the 268 is gonna die, I don't need my HP anymore because I'm gonna come back to the garage. And that's really something you need to understand when you're playing autoloaders. Those are not made to brawl. They are made to play second line, and if you want to brawl, make sure to have someone with you, like I did with Word of Tank Blitz Joe, that played his WZ113 extremely well as well. Anyway, that's it for this little review of the T57 Heavy. I wanted to review in another tank, but I completely forgot that I had this ace tanker in my backpack, so I decided, hey, you know what, let's do it. If you enjoyed, feel free to subscribe, like, and share, and the bullshittery episode is coming soon in approximately 2 or 3 hours. See ya.